Everything else is looking pretty good. I've only found one spot that is really bad as far as rust goes. Let's get this out of the way. And let's see, scoot that out of the way. Scoot that back. There's actually, it's even still a little bit wet down here. If I pull this back even further, you can see a hole right there going straight through. And not sure how bad the damage is. This is I'm assuming it's a wheel well for the spare tire that used to be mounted right here on this bracket. Working on old Reba. And I figured since I got the welder out right now, I'd go ahead and take a look at that, what I thought was a little bitty hole back here under the carpet. I peeled the carpet up. It's still damp under here, and I've been just chipping away the scraper. Got a little hole here. Most of this other crap is just surface, but then, yeah, that's where that little hole was. And as I keep picking away at it, I figure out that almost this entire wheel well panel is loose. You can see it's broken right here. There's holes right here. It's broken all the way up there. And honestly, that might make it easier to redo this. I can just cut out a chunk of straight sheet metal, cover this whole spot, and just weld it in. And then, you know, spot weld these little holes right here, spot weld that back together, or just put a little patch there. Holy smokes. And unfortunately, I think all of this from one loose bolt. And that's this roof rack bolt or screw. Unbelievable. You'd think whoever put this roof rack on here would have put some sort of sealant in there, but nope. It's been leaking forever, I'm sure. This whole carpet, you can see, well, I peeled the carpet back, but you can see all of this has a rust color to it. Now this steel is solid, and it's actually pretty thick. I mean, you can see how thick the scraper blade is, and that steel right there is pretty significant, and it's pretty solid. So I'm not worried about the main bed back here, just this side panel, which really kind of sucks. But overall, not too bad. The other side doesn't look as bad. Not too worried about that side right now. I might peel it back later, but those bolts up there don't look bad. And I didn't find anything on the underside. This one, I actually could see it from the underside clear as day. There was a pretty decent sized hole. You can see if I push this back, that's what I could see from the underside. The rest of this I just started peeling up. I didn't even know this other stuff was bad. It is what it is. I mean, overall, I can't complain, you know. The thing is gorgeous, so taking care of a few little things like this here and there. I mean, this is bigger than I was expecting, but it's still not terrible. The rest of the panels are all good, so. All right, so it's the next day. Gonna be tackling this. I'm gonna be cutting out all the infected area and then replacing it with some new clean metal. And I beat the crap out of it with the needle scaler last night just to open up anything that might be bad. All right, so the video might be a little bit different, trying out a new camera here. But I got all the cancer cut out, and I've actually got my new pieces, most of them anyway. I'm gonna cut out a couple little ones for these spots up here, but I'll show the fitment after I get done cleaning it up. I just wanted to show everybody what this looked like before I get all the pieces back on. Multitude of tools, all sorts of tools. And it's not exactly fun work. It's just, you know, monotonous, tedious, but it's not difficult per se. So here's the hole underneath. I have this fiberglass matting stuff, and I put all of that to kind of shield the fuel tank and the filler neck over here. It's just in case. I didn't get out an electric grinder. I did use the air die grinder for a little bit in the cutoff wheel, just little bits here and there. I didn't want sparks flying everywhere on the interior or under here, but this is more for the welding part. I didn't want anything to burn through fuel lines, or, you know, might not be a great idea to do that. So we're getting there. When I go to do the actual fitment, the final fitment, one of my pieces, so this piece lays here, and this piece goes in there, similar to that. And I'm using these clecos to hold them in place once I get to that point. But the underside of that piece is going to fold up. So you can see right now it's not folded, but I got my line there. So once I do the final fitment and the surface prep for welding is done on the base metal, then when I get everything in place, I'm going to be snipping this piece so that I can pound it under and weld it to the bottom of that piece, if that makes sense. You'll see it when we get to that point. And I think it's looking all right. I think this is going to work out just fine. Some of the base metal I'm not really happy with, like this stuff right here. It's kind of flimsy. All right, well, we got most of the steel, actually all of the steel, pretty much formed and in place. I got a little patch back here for that guy. And the rest of it is in place. I've got it held down with these clecos. I had a thought this morning, though. I'm going to take care of this right now before I forget. The side panel here, let's see, yeah, the camera can see it. The side panel, I had it so that I could fold over. You see these little cuts down here, but that way I can fold it over from the underside and tack it up, bang it into place. And I got to thinking, that's just going to create small gaps down there where moisture can collect. So what I'm going to do, actually I should keep at least one in for now. All right, so we're in place. What I'm going to do is mark this. I'm just going to cut those off. I don't want any folds under there that are going to trap moisture, because no matter what I cover this with, whether it's paint, undercoating, rubber seal, it doesn't matter what I coat it with. If I fold these up and tack it to the bottom there, it's going to create gaps no matter how good I weld, and plus that welding underneath is going to be upside down and a pain in the butt. So I'm going to cut those off. That way when I weld it together, it'll be just a true seam right along there, and I won't have anywhere that can get caught up. A little tip, when you're using cutters, tin snips, use the blade that goes up. So like this one, these are the right hand cutters. Whichever blade goes up is going to push the steel up. So since I'm getting rid of these tabs, I don't want to bend my original plate. So I'm going to use these ones. That way they only bend the side that's coming off. You'll see what I'm talking about here in a second. I'm just going to follow my line. See how as I'm cutting there, it bends up the side that has the lower jaw, and it leaves the other side more or less straight. So that side stayed pretty straight, whereas you can see all these got bent pretty good. Anyway, those are done. Now I think this fitment will be much better. Yeah. So now I can just run a straight bead all the way along here and get it completely welded together in a straight seam. That way there's no folds on the underside for moisture to get trapped in. Mucho better. I'm going to pound this part flat right here so that it fits in better there, and then we're going to be off to the races with welding. Here we go. Everything I think is ready. Did a couple test passes for the welder. I really wanted to use 23 thou or 24 thou MIG wire, but I don't have a roller for it, which I'm sure I do somewhere. So we're just going to make do with what we got. I'm going to tack a little grounding strap right about here. That way I can both pull up on it to close that gap a little bit and to ground with. Without busting off. Oh, perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. There. There's a little seam right down here that I want to close up, or a little gap rather. So with this extra thin stuff, you gotta be careful. It's super easy to burn through. I'm gonna put a whole bunch of little tacks on this, pushing it down as I go to make sure everything's where it's supposed to be. Once it's tacked up all the way around, I'm just gonna do little stitch welds. So I'll show little bits and pieces as we go. So I smelled something a little funny. It was rubberized undercoating that's still left under there. That's probably what that smoke is from right there too. Yep, that's it. Okay, we're getting really close to being able to pull these clecos out of the way. Well, I got everything tacked in place. Pulled all the clecos out, and I'm just gonna go ahead and get everything welded up. I'm gonna do little stretches at a time. This the base metal kind of crappy, like over here it's kind of blowing through a little bit, and over here it blew through a little bit. That's just what happens when you're trying to weld the metal that has rust in it already. It's just makes for a crappy weld. So I'm gonna take it slow and just work my way around little by little, but at least it's all in place now. Making progress. Well, not my prettiest welding ever, and hindsight being 2020, I definitely would have removed a little bit further back on a lot of this stuff, because as soon as the MIG wire would touch that rusted metal, it'd be spitting and spattering all over, blowing through certain places. But I got it sealed up. It's good. Used a light on both sides looking through, and it'll hold for sure. And you can see I burned up a lot of the original rubber undercoating here. I peeled off most of it, and it still managed to burn a whole bunch of it. I don't know if you noticed earlier, but I drilled holes through the steel right where this fender bracket is, and I welded it right through. So, well, it didn't even stick, did it? That's funny. All right, well, here we are. Man, it's been like a week and a half since I started this. But got it all painted up now. For this part out here, not the fresh metal, but everything else, it got, what's that stuff called? The chassis saver, just because that does better on rusty surfaces. On the fresh metal, I put self-etching primer and then rattle can black implement paint. Looks good down here, or up here rather. And down here I did basically the same thing, except I didn't even bother with the chassis saver under here. And it's all back together. Now I still have a few spots here, like there's this hole right here where there's fresh metal on the other side of it, but that means that there's a gap behind this metal and in front of that metal. I was able to weld up the seams on both sides for most of it. But when I go back and spray all of this with the surface shield undercoating, I'm going to focus a lot on these little crevices that didn't get filled in with weld or closed off. Like there's a pretty big one right there, right here, pretty big crevice, and it goes up behind this metal. So I'm going to be spraying all the way up in there. I'm going to be taking off all of the these panels, plastic splash guards, and just spraying everything. I got new stainless hardware for these supports down here, which it just blows my mind that they didn't use stainless hardware to begin with. And these ones were just lag bolts, so I couldn't even hold on to one side of the bolt. I had to get a nut splitter out and actually break that nut to get that thing off of there. Like this right here. They used a lag bolt, so there's nothing to grab onto this side, and you know for sure it's rusted on the other side. Let's see if the camera can see it. Yeah, so that bolt right there, or that nut, it's virtually impossible now to get that off there without, you know, breaking it or cutting it or splitting that nut. But I'm gonna redo all of those. Like I said, I got some nice new stainless 3/8 hardware to put all that back in. Gonna clean all of those up, and then hopefully today I can start spraying the underside. So I'm gonna get back to it. Hopefully this helps somebody out. Hopefully you guys enjoy seeing the progress here. I know I'm super excited to get this thing out of the barn and actually start using it. I just, you know, I want to have this truck last for a long time. And even today, it's all sorts of gloom and doom and rainy and cloudy, and our road, our dirt road, it's not even a gravel road. It's mostly just dirt. So when it rains, it's literally like 2-3 inches of pure slop, and that will get under everything in this truck. And I want to get it undercoated before that happens. But hey, thanks for checking out the videos. I appreciate it. If you got any questions or comments, you know the drill. I'll be making a bunch more videos on this as I make more progress, and we'll see you in the next video.